Hello, adventurer. It's good to see you. You have made it to the morning grind.
Welcome, welcome.
It's the live stream at the beginning of the Geekverse, where we talk about all types of topics in geekdom, gaming, and fantasy, with an emphasis on being constructive and creating the things that we want to exist in the world.
It's all on the grind, Sizemore. Can't be too fine, can't be too coarse.
That's exactly right. There are a lot of adventures to be had today. Dungeons to explore and monsters to slay, and who knows what a random encounter might send our way. That's why we have to prepare, so settle in now for the morning grind with your favorite beverage in hand.
Tea? Or maybe something a little stronger. I've got a few bottles of the old Wynyard left.
Whatever you want. Pull up a chair.
Dude.
If you're feeling fancy, how about a cappuccino? Or a frappuccino? Or how about an espresso?
Just tea, thank you.
Sounds good to me, Gandalf. Whatever you want. I'm just glad you're here.
Everyone is welcome. You can just watch if you want. You don't have to worship anything you don't want to worship.
Thank you, Mike. But be forewarned.
Sometimes we get really strange characters around here.
Wait, what's that you say? Why can't you come and be a part of the stream?
My wife would disown me.
Oh no, I bet she'll be fine with it. Come on in.
Am I scared for my safety? No.
What are we supposed to do?
Everybody do the secret handshake.
Secret cultist handshake.
Oh, now do wizards who love each other.
This, my friend, is a science.
I still don't have gifts, but it's fine.
It's all on the grind, son. Can't be too fine, can't be too coarse.
Dude, this would be a sick place to bring the band.
Indeed it would be, Dave. It really would. I'm seeing more people coming in. Welcome, glad to have you here. Oh look, here's someone new.
Is this the cultist meetup?
Yes it is.
Come to hang out? Please accept me. I have nothing else.
Okay, we accept you. Everyone's welcome here.
Brought some snacks.
Well, that makes things even better.
You want some coffee? I don't drink coffee. You sure? It's cultist coffee. What makes it cultist coffee? I'm a cultist and I'm drinking it. Oh. Then I'll have some.
What exactly is going on here?
I'm seeing more people coming in. Welcome. It's so great to have you. Oh, and look, here comes another stranger.
Can we help you?
Yes, fellow cultists. I could really use some food.
Oh yeah? Welcome. We have donuts.
Oh, it's me. I'm glad I'm here. I'm sure you have a few questions for me, though.
What's your name? Who do you work for? What god do you worship?
Great questions, Rob.
I'm Steve King, and I worship Nyarlathotep.
No, not really. I'm just Heath, and I won't be worshiping anything this morning. But I will be your host. Welcome to the office. We're going to have a great time. I've got my coffee ready, because now it's time for the morning grind.
If you could become a fish, that would be amazing. Then I could command you with my mental fish powers.
Hey, everybody. I am alive. Visually. I'm here, feeling a bit better this morning, although still way behind. It is good to see everybody here, though. We got James. Good morning. Inner Lights here. Good morning. Oh, you're working on a strategy game based on consolidation of War Master and Battle Masters. Very interesting. Good morning, Lynn. Sable's here. Charlie, good morning. All right. Glad to see everybody here. So I thought we would take a break from our discussion of the Book of Exalted Deeds this morning. Even though I had been enjoying that, I was working yesterday to work on the landing pages, and basically I got them ready. Everything takes so much longer than you want them to, but the landing pages for the cultist and for the coffee shop, RavenCon coffee shop to play, are done and functional. But I sent them to a couple of people, and there were some copy edits, and I figured there would be copy edits. I hate trying to planning out landing pages is one of my least favorite things, especially since I haven't found good landing page software from the functionality standpoint, actually the design standpoint. And so, and I hate, okay, so what's got to be there? What can be there? Typing words into the landing page itself, design editor and stuff like that. I knew there would be things that it would need to be copy edited, but it got done. Brianna sent me some copy edit notes, so I'm going to fix those, and then we should have landing pages to start re-promoting the Cultists and also the RavenCon online gaming shop. So that's what's going on there. I've got some scripts here for some videos about those. So that's what's going on. It's just taking a little bit longer than I thought. And then I want to get into the actual design of the RPG stuff for the Cultists and the game design stuff for the Cultists there for Ritual. But I'm not there yet because I need to get the marketing stuff going. I need to get the landing page up. I need to get stuff going over there and making stuff happen. But last night, for some reason, I was sitting here thinking about strategy game design, which I try to push these things out of my mind because I've got so much, I've got an order I'm trying to do things in. So I'm trying not to skip around in order. But I thought, we should probably talk about that here on the Morning Grind because I didn't type out any of my notes last night or this morning. I was just thinking about it. And I was like, well, you know what? Actually, a pretty good Morning Grind might be to actually type out some notes so we have them for some type of strategy game later on anyway, because that could be part of the whole package. And I think that with the playingcards.io, we can do more. I should be able to do game design faster when it actually comes down to it. So we will see. Let's see. And I know Lynn. Yeah, I know Lynn I've got Lynn's information on dice stuff. Lynn says, I've been exploring the mathematics and probability of dice space, looking at all the different die mechanics and properties as they pertain to tabletop RPGs. And I know we're going to take a look at what Lynn has been doing as well once we get back to RPG design. I thought about that, but we're just not back to RPG design yet, but hopefully rather soon. Even though for the Cultists, at least, especially when we get back to Fated Edge, may not do that before we do the Cultists RPG, but we will see. All right, so that's what's going on tonight. And by the way, I got to make up thumbnails because haven't done that tonight. Tonight, Cameron's going to be on Table Talk. Cameron's going to be on Table Talk tonight with Doug, and we're going to be talking about different franchises and your responsibility to, or Hollywood's responsibility, or let's just say a producer's responsibility or the owner's responsibility to a franchise when making sequels and sustaining the franchise and so forth. So we're going to be talking about that tonight, but I got to make that up. That'll probably be the next thing I have to do as soon as I get off this stream here. So that is tonight, 7:00. I'll put that in the Discord server. I'll put the link to the Discord server in here, but I'll put that in the Discord server tonight. Ravenkeep Discord server. Right there. Franchises, Star Wars and Marvel. You mean Star Wars and Marvel? Well, I'm sure we will talk about those, but they can be others as well. Yes. All right, so that'll be tonight on Table Talk. And hopefully I'll be able to have these landing pages up by tonight. Then I got to record these videos for these landing pages. Maybe we're making progress here. I don't know. All right. Hey, Michael. Good morning. Let's go ahead and do a breathe and sip. Everybody got your bagel? Got your favorite drink here, whatever it is. Let's do our breathe and sip. Two deep breaths in, complete exhales, and then take a sip of our favorite beverages. So here we go. Let's breathe. And sip. Excuse me. Okay, let's just get into it today. And like I said, this is basically just going to be a notes and brainstorming session. Notes and brainstorming session. because we should probably start with goals again here, because I was thinking about this. What actually got me started thinking about this was some type of game that could be played on the morning grind. I was now that it could be elsewhere too, but I was actually just for some reason had the thought, what game could be played on the morning grind? Now, of course, we played games like Hero Quest, and things like that. But I was trying to think of, but one of the reasons that people might not like that is because, okay, you do have to be physically, or not physically someplace. You do have to be like on a video call. Like, for instance, Hero Quest requires being on a video call. Basically, essentially, and right there playing. But what if we had something? But what if there was something that didn't require constant attention? Like a play-by-post game. And so I had actually been thinking about a play-by-post game for a while. That has come up and bubbled up in my mind a few times. Like, what kind of game could you be involved in if you want to play a game, but you can't actually be sitting there someplace immediately? And I didn't come up with a great game. And so, for instance, I think role-playing games, I think RPGs are not all that great for this. But from time to time, I've been thinking about some type of play-by-post kind of game. And it seems much more like a strategy game is much better for a play-by-post kind of setup than is an RPG. And this is mainly, to me, is because it takes RPGs seem to require a lot of information input for very little movement on the game itself. Like, even if you're talking about just a battle, like a fight, a sword fight in D&D or something, there are a lot of choices that players have to make, decisions that have to be made by players, and also dice that have to be rolled and so forth around the table for many rounds in order to get through even a single fight. So it seems like those kinds of games, of course, I've seen people play them by play-by-post, and I guess with your group of players, they may be more or less successful. But what you really need is a game here, a game where player information input has a lot of consequence well, for the game, I guess that's what I'm trying to say. A game that has a lot of input or consequence of the game. So this could be done. Well, actually, Michael brings up, I guess this could be like if you're playing by post. Of course, it doesn't have to just be the morning grind, but something like this kind of thing. You could either play it in a single session of the morning grind with some type of timers for people to get into, with some type of timer for people to put in their information, or from day to day. I guess it could be either one. The amount of time you give people to put in their information is could be variable. Lynn says, look into Gnomic, rather cerebral, but it can get pretty interesting. The game starts off with a set of rules, and each round to play a rule change proposal and voted on that change. I have not heard of that one. And then game state. So game state needs to be updated with no further player input. Until with no further player input, then all players are updated on game state. Simultaneous play. Well, I guess this is actually kind of our goals up here, or design goals. So what something a good game like this would incorporate? What would it have? All it needs to be updated on the game state and prepare for new input. There was something else that I was going to say there until I took a break. Let's see here. Well, yes, trying not to, but I was thinking about stuff last night and this morning for some reason, so I thought we should at least go ahead and put down some notes on the thinking, and then we can save them for another time, because it's not like there aren't enough things to do at the moment. Sable says, set in a near future like the Expanse, where we're spreading through the solar system, but without faster-than-light communications. Then the actual light lag is built into the game. That's interesting. There was probably something else here. Of course, and then I'm big on the idea of limited randomness. I would say that decide, especially in a game like this, when you're only giving one input into the game. Oh no, I do remember what I was going to say. This has the characteristic of simultaneous play. Simultaneous play. Players are making decisions at the same time. Whether that is on a timer, if you're going to be playing inside like a 2-hour window, or if you're going to be playing over, a week or whatever. I am a big fan of simultaneous play. Anything players can be doing at the same time seems like they should be doing. So that was another. So design goal, simultaneous play. That's kind of built in though, because you're receiving it. So, what it wouldn't be then. So for instance, I guess it does matter here, because that would mean, for instance, not any single player's turn to provide input. All players place input. I guess that is at the same time. I guess that is significant, because you don't want to say, or I was planning on not saying, hey, it's this player one's turn, player's two turn, player one turn, board updates, player two turn, board updates, player three turn, board updates. Don't do that. Say player's turn, submit your information, board updates. Players, your turn again, submit information. Sable says, might look at things like diplomacy. Yeah, diplomacy could be. It's been actually a while since I've read diplomacy. I have played diplomacy, and I've read it, but it's been a while. And I read it after I played it again years later, but it's been a while. I've got. Well, diplomacy is sitting around here someplace. We've never looked at diplomacy on the morning grind. But yeah, it could be something like that. But so I guess that does matter. Simultaneous play, we're not going around the table. It's you're either in a position where the game board is being updated, or you're in a place where the players are providing information to the game. I wonder, now I have one of the new copies that I was very disappointed with, because it just came with cardboard pieces, but I don't know where our original copy of Diplomacy was. I wonder if it was from 1961. Because we had the ones with the wooden pieces that were great. But speaking of diplomacy, so diplomacy has that, because now diplomacy is a game that people play by post. So that's a good game in that sense, because everybody gives their orders at the same time. So I guess I could put in here, can be diplomacy like and that the orders are all given at the same time. So that is what we're talking about there. But we need to decide on what the random element is. On what the random element is. Because generally I've been trending toward less randomness. But not deterministic. Diplomacy is deterministic. Once the orders are given, the next state of the game will be deterministic. You've got to figure out the state of the game. There's no dice or something like that. I think it needs to be. I think there still needs to be a random element to this. But so reserve some element of randomness, but be very deliberate in what that is. The weather is the only thing that I think of that can seem random enough. So yeah, this is hard because, for instance, and we talked about this when we talked about War of Kings. For instance, in War of Kings, because I was thinking about War of Kings in this context as well. In War of Kings, there are a lot of random elements. And randomization compounds. So now, so I've kind of gone away with that. I mean, that to me, that was design of that kind of thing was fun when I designed that game, because there's a lot of randomness in each different element. What territories are going to generate resources? What is or whether or not you're going to get an event card? What the event card is going to be? What action you can take with any, if any, with the barbarians, combat as well. And we even talked about here that do we want a situation? I'll put the question mark here. Do we want a situation where perfect play? Now this is not possible, because if it's not deterministic, it's not possible. Perfect play can result in a loss. If your answer to that is a hard no, then you're looking at an entirely deterministic game. Perfect play should result in victory. So that's got to be, so the answer has to be no. But close to it. Innerlight says, "Oh, Heath, I was going to ask if you mind if I use the map and heraldry from War of Kings to make campaign setting." I guess it just depends on. What you're doing. I can talk to you about that. I was actually thinking that it would be might be time to revise that game, to revive that game board for a game like this. I was thinking about that last night, and like thinking about this as a potential revision to War of Kings. So we can talk on that later. Sable says, otherwise, yeah, just play chess. So I'm big on limited randomness. So for instance, like when I was saying in War of Kings, sources of randomness include resource generation, whether or not you get a resource card, what the resource card is, whether or not you can move the barbarians, if you can, what you can do with them, and then combat. And moreover, in combat, there are no straight bonuses. It's a very there's a lot of random elements that there are no straight bonuses. It's all added dice. So that results in a lot of randomness there. So what I would do now is say, okay, but this is somewhat counterbalanced by the players having a lot of choice. Basically about what to undertake and what not to. A lot of choices in the game about what to undertake and what not to. For instance, in that game, you can attack. You make one attack, and do you wish to continue your attack after you see the results of that attack? Do you wish to continue the attack? Do you wish to withdraw when you are being attacked? Are you going to stay and fight, or are you going to withdraw? But so there's a lot of that means actually there's a lot of places where the players have to give input. War of Kings, as it currently stands, would not be a good choice to play by post because, like, in order to resolve an attack, there's a lot of back and forth between each players. I attack. Okay, are you going to surrender the territory or are you leaving? Okay, you're going to stand and fight. Okay, then let's fight one round. Okay, attacker, do you want to continue the attack? Okay, defender, would you like to continue to fight or would you like to give up? And so forth and so on. So there's a lot of back and forth that has to go on between players in order to adjudicate any particular round. And that's fine when you're sitting there at the table, like directly across from each other. Want to go again? Yeah. All right, then we'll do it. You can communicate that information in seconds, right? It's much more difficult to do in play by post, so that doesn't work. So in this case, since the player is going to have in a play by post situation, the player is going to have less input into any situation. So decreasing randomness is good. So they need to have more things they need to have a greater expectation over their over the result of their input. Hey, good morning, PH, and good morning, Vision. Good morning. Less input, so we need greater, not all, but greater determinism, or we'll say less. But we'll say less random. We need less randomness over the actions they are going to undertake. Not no randomness, but going to undertake. Because there's no input. Your input. Actually, I was thinking about some games that seems like I used to play on the computer. Thinking about, I don't remember the name of this. Thinking about a game that was a Civil War game. Man, I have no idea what it was, but we played it, I think, a reasonable amount, where one player was the Union and one player was the Confederacy. Union, this was a computer game. And you basically issued orders to whole armies, and then the computer would play out the turn, the moves and the actions, and then report the results to the players. I remember it had the different flags that was like represented different armies. And of course, you knew your army's composition and whatever, and you were moving from basically from road to cities and things like that. And the different flags would collide into each other, and there'd be a sound effect of a battle or something. And then the report would come up, and somebody would have retreated and whatever. Like, oh no, that one retreated and whatever. So that I think that kind of style is going to work really well. So I think that's going to be a key here. I think a key to the game would be to be sure that the players felt that the battle report that came back, well, I'll just say was fair. Not too swingy. Because they're not going to get any decisions. They're playing the role of king, leader, emperor, whatever, who's sending out people to, another general on campaign, and then you're going to get the result of that campaign back. Well, yeah, I would say so. So yeah, so this would be specifically some type of war game. It would also be great if the rules system were general enough that it could be rethemed. Right. I could see this kind of game being like you say, like, say you're some kind of merchant prince directing fleets of trade ships or what have you. Could be that. Not too swinging or swingy right here. But then you've got to figure out what to do here. So I think that the random element. So random element, it seems like then should be in combat. Anytime you're sending somebody in for battle, well, there's a chance that things are not going to go the way that you planned. So that means make other things deterministic. Other things that are deterministic should be something like supply. Supplies or resources. You know what you got when you sit down. No, I have not. PH says, talking about less variables. Have you done a video? I have got that on my list. I haven't had that hasn't been a priority at the moment. I've got 2 videos that are on kind of the list to make because I was like, oh, I should just record those. But I was like, what's the purpose in doing that right now? And so I have not sat down and recorded that dedicated video. Probably more important when we get back to a lot more game design. So this could be deterministic. Which I think I would like better. So that if you know, so that would allow you, so if you know you need, now I don't know if there'd be multiple kinds of resources, but no, you need some resource. Capturing the territory with that resource is a good idea. Because unfortunately, well, you want to encourage players to do that. Oh, I don't have enough. Like I said, I don't know if this is the way it would go, but I don't have enough iron. I need to go conquer an iron territory. In War of Kings, you might go and conquer the territory, but it might not generate next round because that's governed by a die roll as well. So I don't like that. So I would put that here as is all right. You conquered it, so that means that next turn it'll generate its resources. Things I think so. So this needs to be or trade with an iron supplier, right? Well, whichever way you choose to go with that, you would just know that you're getting your result. Don't make that a random element of the game. So different elements of War of Kings. War of Kings did have different resources. War of Kings had army building. Only one type of army, though. There was just an army. There was kingdom building. Oh, see, also, I'll put a note up here. We've talked about the holy grail of gaming. Could it be done so that the battles could be determined by the system? And reported back. Or the players fight that out using a different system. We talked about that with Mighty Empires. Mighty Empires would allow you to fight out a Warhammer battle if you wanted to fight out a Warhammer battle once you engaged with somebody at a particular location. So that's in order to do that, like there are other things you have to think about in order to do that. But it would be neat if there were some type of way to integrate some other system if you wanted to use it. Sable Phoenix says, this is all extremely high level, just brainstorming, really. The first order of business, it seems to me, would be to figure out what fantasy the game is supposed to embody first. Then you can start coming up with specific mechanical ideas to represent that tone and feel. Well, I was trying to come at it from the mechanical limitations kind of first. Hey, Michael, that was my thinking. And maybe I didn't do that. When I was talking about played asynchronously online, the particular flavor of the fantasy, I always thought, well, it can come later, or it doesn't have to be fantasy. It could be historical too. That would be if you were able to reuse the mechanics and things like that. It doesn't necessarily have to be, I don't think. But I was trying to think first about the constraints of the constraints of playing it in real life. That's what I was thinking about first. So I was also thinking about needs to be able to be represented in playingcards.io. So if it doesn't have that functionality, the functionality isn't there, it can't be included. Now, it doesn't mean that we can't use a different type of VTT, but, thinking in terms of actual physical constraints, well, let's go with that. All right, it's got to be able to be built out in that. So if it requires some type of custom coding or something, then it's not going to be able to be possible. War of Kings had exploration. It had kingdom building, building towns and villages, towns, and cities. Had fortification building with walls, fortresses, and castles. While you were trying to build an empire. And I think I would even reduce. So I think I would even reduce this. Oh yeah, what was with the play? Oh yeah, I saw something about the playing cards. Michael said, "I'm thinking about a deck of cards. I'm thinking a deck of cards can provide one of 4 kinds of elements to limit the kind of randomness per suit. Draw 1 for the next day's move. Playing cards provide limited randomness, 4 kinds of ranges, 1 to 13 range." So you're saying like use a playing card to be the random element for everything that happens in that, like on that turn. But my question up here was, can this be simplified? For instance, okay, so I basically got that right. So, for instance, Wizard's Quest, which we looked at, has no kingdom building. You're not worried about building out new villages or farms or things like that. There's something else to drink here. Has no kingdom building. And the castles are fixed. So you don't have to build castles. So that's not, it doesn't, that bothers me only a little bit from the, from kind of the world, like how long is this supposed to exist? Like, is the game supposed to take place over an amount of time where you would build a whole castle? War of Kings kind of implies that it is, because you'll build whole castles while you're there. Whereas in something like Wizard's Quest, you just have the defensive value of some of the different, all the different territories, and castles is one of them. Has anyone ever played this one? I was also kind of thinking about this one. This is the Game of Thrones board game. I have played this one as well. Let's see. Let me see. I'll look at the back here. And I was thinking maybe we should look at it again. Lynn says building castles is fun. I vote for building castles. But see, now another element is, do we preserve having just armies, or can you have different troop types? And something tells me that that potentially having something like multiple troop types, if you have multiple troop types, you might want to go with not worrying about the kingdom building and the fortification building. Have that all set, and then worry about just your army building and getting them into the right places. Let's see. And of course, it could be that different variations of the game might be able to do different things. But this game right here, maybe we should look at it in more detail later when we get back to this as an example. Where's the light? There we go. So this game was kind of like Risk in some regards. Now it was more not Risk, Diplomacy in some regards, but it was a bit more sophisticated. Got into a bunch more stuff. But it did have like giving orders. Like, so the idea, like, okay, everybody issue your orders. Let's see, this game, we've got all of the different territories already on the board, with things like castles being already fixed on the board. That might have been supply or something like that. So the values of different locations are already fixed on the board. Oh God, I remember almost nothing about this. Stronghold, castle, supply, power, bridge, port. Yeah. So in this game, you did issue orders to all of your armies, which I think that's what the kind of thing would have. So that's your decision, or one of your decisions during the players update board part of the game. Like, these were order tokens, and I kind of like this. Place your order token beside what you're giving an order to, and that allows you, and that tells you what they are going to be doing. Like, that might have been defense. Defense with a +1. Or is that something like consolidate power? I think that's like attack at a +1, and you only had so many different ones. And I also like this because it had raids in it. So go on a raid of your neighbors. This one might be a good one to check out again in detail one morning, because I don't think we've ever looked down the morning grind. I have played it, but it's been a long time. So this would be like definitely, I think issue orders in secret. Oh, there we go. Issue orders in secret. All orders are resolved. When game state is updated. And that does mean that there have to be some kind of order or priority for resolution of actions. PH says, when you talked about giving orders, I thought the game is battle map, where you would move pieces and plot strategies and then would get the result of your strategies. What if there was some sort of attribute that allows the player to get a grasp of the variables to consider of the strategy? Maybe when you set out a strategy, you can result that you failed because of a disease that got your soldiers that you hadn't considered it. Is that clear? Kind of like a combat system where you bet cards against another player, and if you bet a maneuver that he has no defense, his bet, you make a hit. Now, I think I understand. Oh, see you later, Charlie. See, okay, so like we had disease in War of Kings. See, that depends on how much of the randomness you can be. And of course, what exactly is that, the way like a loss of soldiers or something is interpreted? It could be some type of disease or something like that. But right, I think you're right in that we want to know what variables you want to consider, but then know that one of them in some place is some type of random element. So you can't ever completely consider all of them because it's not a deterministic game. But you need to feel in control because you are going to be able to have a lot of things that are known. And I think known as in terms of bonuses, if we want to talk that way, rather than bonus dice. Because even if you're talking about bonus dice, that might still not do anything for you in the end. So but what you're talking about, PH, is like what kind of variables do you need to consider, or do you want the players to consider when on their turn, or if you want to talk about just in terms of combat, when making an attack? Do you want them to consider troop numbers? Like, for instance, that's a big factor in something like Risk, like your army numbers, or in Wizard's Quest. Troop numbers, troop unit types, leadership. I don't know. Variables to consider. I mean, these could be them. Maybe that's, I don't know what else we're going to, but also defenses, man-made like castles, or natural, like mountain ranges. I will say up here, one of the things I like, the kingdom building, with regard to the kingdom building, the economics was a major part of War of Kings. Because you couldn't let your army get outsized to your economic capacity. Or army size outrun your economic capacity. Which I liked. I liked the idea here. We had, I think this didn't get used as much as it could have. Weather. Oh yeah. So Michael says, like, the weather. Do you want to have to consider weather? I'll put that as a note down here. And then your job would be to stack up as many of these things in your favor before unleashing some campaign against somebody someplace. Fortune Empire, I like the idea of the conquest of other people's villages and towns. And that's what forms an empire. But then you have to be able to hold them. But then it takes resources to hold that that territory. Otherwise, it'll rebel. Which can happen in War of Kings, but I don't think enough attention was paid to that. I think that kind of thing would be important here. Now, of course, this could be planet, like Sable's talking about in sci-fi or whatever else. But this idea that, okay, I'm going to go out, that's somebody else's, I'm going to go and take it. And then, unlike in Risk, when it's just yours, you end up you actually have to you get some benefit from it, but it might cost you as well. Michael says, I would see me being an economic powerhouse that avoids battle except for when my trade units gets attacked. So yeah, so what's the ultimate purpose here? If you brought that side over to it again, like if you had the kingdom building part of this, then you could play economically or you could play militarily. Depends on the purpose of the game here. Of course, we also got to think about how long ultimately does it take to, like, how long do you want people to have to take to play, right? You know, like what do you like as far as a single turn? I mean, how much time? I think you could put a timer on it. So if you had people who were all playing and you were going to play over a course of 2 hours, it could still be asynchronously, but you get the game done. Or you play it so, like, you know, does it take 30 minutes to take a turn? I hope not. Like, how long should it take you to give orders? Only a few minutes. So Sable says, what if the only randomness was actually the map itself, having something like a hex-based 4X where each player starts with a castle or wizard tower hex and reveals the map hex by hex with a scout army? Yeah, so we could... another thing to consider would be a known, and this seems like one of those variation things that could be done. Known map, like in War of Kings, because that's true. That's another source of randomness. What's out there could be a source of randomness. It was not a source of randomness in War of Kings. Wizard's Quest, Risk, or that Game of Thrones, or a random hex map. Like in, that's more of a Mighty Empires thing. I don't know if I would make that the only source of randomness. If that were the case, that you turn over and you explore, so that would be including a lot more of the exploration element. So what is out there? What kind of stuff do you get? That's a random element to the game. I don't think I would include that as the only random element. I think if there's an exploration element to it, that could be added to another random element. That could be included as well, I think. PH says, I thought of a chart with all variables, then you could know what are them. The difficult part would be to complete all of them. The limit of resources would make the players choose priorities. I see. You could play in space too, like Master of Orion. James says, would introducing a community chest style card mechanic be beneficial to add variance? If you enter combat with a player, certain unforeseen events can affect the battle or outcome. Maybe the victorious takes a card from one deck and the vanquished from another. Could. There's got to be some way to put a random element into a campaign. That could be a roll of dice. It could be the draw of a card. Lynn says you've got to have the occasional random dragon or troll. Well, that could be another random element. Like in Wizard's Quest, that has the dragon will sometimes land on your territory and start eating guys. PH says a random hex map increases the replayability. Okay, see with something on a random hex map, like War of Kings doesn't use a random board. It's got two different boards, but it did have an exploration element in that what happens to you when you enter that territory is determined by an exploration chart. but in that case, that was another random element of that. Did I put that up here? That exploration was another one? Maybe I did. But exploration was one. But even in that one, sometimes there were choices the player would make after the moving in. So the player would move in, roll to see what's there, and then they could choose to attack. For instance, if there was a barbarian village there or a barbarian army there or whatever, or back off. And so that, so if you're going to have the random element, there can't be a decision point after the player decides to go in. So like, all right, we're going to go in, we're going to see what's over there. And you're kind of committed. Like whatever is there, there's going to be some type of outcome that you're not going to have a decision again until you hear the report back. Also, in this case, in exploration-based games, most exploration needs to be good. And also just in general, game mechanics need to reward action and not inaction. You don't accidentally put stuff in there that's rewarding inaction by your players. So by that, exploration-based games, whether or not you're going into a known territory or a territory on a known map, or if you're going to have a random hex like Sable was talking about, you need to encourage exploration, because you can think, look at all these horrible things I can think of that could happen to your armies, like plagues and things like that. But if that's happened, then people are going to be hesitant to explore, and you want them to get out there and explore. But for instance, but like Wizard's Quest, has no exploration, for example. And in fact, every space on the board, every territory on the board must be occupied. And stay that way through the games. You don't ever have unoccupied spaces. Like the orcs come by and grab spaces if there's, for some reason, one's left unoccupied during a turn. Michael says, when taking territory, whether locals welcome or scorn the invading army could be random. It could be random, or it could be known whether or not you're, like in War of Kings, it's whether or not you're of their culture. So if you are attacking somebody else's, different kingdom, they're going to scorn you. But if they take something from you and then you go to liberate it, then they welcome you because they're of your culture. So they don't fight you as you're going in. Lynn says random terrain can get pretty weird without the right algorithm for generating it. You shouldn't be able to walk directly from a desert to a tropical jungle without going through transitional terrain. Yeah, or weighted random. Right. Yeah, I think you're right. That's pure randomness in that area is bad. Just like for the same reason. I mean, that's basically the same thing when we're talking about random encounters in RPGs and stuff. That's rough. It has to be weighted. You really have to get the right algorithm for that. So, yes, I agree. And now, of course, with the randomization anyway, you might not have a situation where you have deserts and tropical. You might just be talking about in Mighty Empires where linear features are like rivers or mountains and where the coastlines are and things like that. So, let's see. All right. Well, anyway, that's, I don't know if I put down all of my notes, but that's kind of what I was thinking about last night and this morning. And so I'm going to save this so that if we want to return to this idea, we can, and we've got some type of start on it. Yeah, I definitely was thinking about it from the area of it should be built from the constraints of the system and the online format, rather than thinking about it in terms of a particular type of theme first. But all right, well, that's what I got. I'm going to go. I got to make up the table talk thumbnails. I got to record videos. I got to get these landing pages up. There's so much to do, and I feel like no progress is being made. I think progress is being made, but but it doesn't feel like I'm where I need to be. So I'm going to keep going. I'll make the strategy game notes. Game notes, morning grind. Table talk, 7:00 tonight. We're going to be talking about how to deal with franchises and Hollywood or producer or writer's responsibility toward franchises with Cameron tonight. So Cameron will be on with Doug. All right, and I'll put that in the Discord server as soon as I make that up. I need to do that right now. All right, everybody, go forth, be creative, be constructive. I'll see you tonight. Later.